Hey, we got another podcast episode going on with Neck Roots. I'm Kit.
Austin.
Hey, thanks for joining us. It's going to be exciting today, and I have no clue why it's going to be exciting, but we've been having good conversation. The snow's falling. Lot happening around us.
Yeah, tons going on. In fact, our conversation earlier today, Kit, there's a quote that I read, and it went along the lines of, your current circumstances don't determine where you go.
Yeah.
They only determine where you start. Right. And I thought that this was so applicable because all these episodes, we talk about how to change yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a question that's on everybody's mind is, well, where do I start? Right. And the truth is, you start exactly where you are. Right. Yeah. You don't have to go anywhere to figure out where you're going to start. Your present circumstances are the starting line.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to build upon. Right.
Yep.
You know, you don't have to become 50% better to say, okay, now I'm going to be better, tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
It's right now.
Yep. And you know what's interesting is it's kind of a oxymoron sometimes. Every new year, it seems like when you're making goals, your goal, no matter what it is, whether it's physical, emotional, financial, or whatever, it is to change your situation or to change yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is sometimes our goal should be to be ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? And instead of change ourselves, to be ourselves, because that's where you start.
Yeah.
Is being comfortable, being you, and seeing what changes you want to make and forward progress. You do start where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got a story that goes along with this, and maybe it's going to get a little, I'm going to get a little vulnerable here, right? Just tell a personal story here. And it was just a couple years ago, about 2.5 years ago. I had started a new job. Even a little bit before I started the new job, I'd gotten kind of sick of the job that I was in. There were some things about it that weren't great, and I was just I was really miserable. And I'd come home, and I couldn't separate my work and my family life very well. And maybe I still don't, but, I would take it out on the family. I had a short temper, never got physically violent with anybody, but, I'd come home and I'd be yelling at the kids to clean up this or clean up that, or to shut up, quit making so much noise, just on edge all the time and screaming and yelling at the kids and, coming down on my wife for not doing this or that I thought she should have been doing. And this went on for a really long time, probably about a year, almost a year. And she finally came to me and she says she didn't say it this way, but dude, I remember how she said it. She said, if you don't figure yourself out, if you don't get this figured out, me and the kids, I'm going to take the kids and we're going to go somewhere else.
Not going to Disneyland, going somewhere else.
Going to Disneyland, man. And so right then and there, I was like, okay. So the very next day, I didn't really have anybody else. And this is the thing with men, right? What resources do we have when we're going through a hard time? And I'll tell you what, dude, mentally, super depressed, very depressed. I quit all my hobbies. I became super introverted for, this whole time, which, this has been a thing, in and out throughout my whole entire life. But this is the first time that it affected my family. And
it's probably the first time it affected you doing what you love, which is riding.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, no, it's taken me away from riding before, but this is the first time that I've had this many people close to me that I could, project anger on.
Yeah. Right.
And so she said, you fix yourself or we're going. And, there's not, you Google it, Kit. If you look up, inspiration for whatever, on Google, hey, help me find some inspiration, you'll find stuff for women. Long before you ever find anything for men. Or there's resources for women all over the place, yeah. But there's really not a lot of resources for men. So, I was like, okay, well, I got to fix myself because I don't want to lose my family. And I knew, dude, I knew I was taking it out on them. And so the very next day, I checked myself into an outpatient facility because I absolutely refuse to be an inpatient anywhere, right? That's just something that I'm not doing. I'm not going to have, I don't want to have that mark. And, if you're comfortable with that and you're okay with that's fine.
And
right?
some people might need it depending on where they're at.
Some people might need it, right? You got to do what you got to do. But for me, I wasn't going inpatient, and I went in there and I told him, I'm like, dude, this is what's going on. This is the ultimatum my wife gave me. I got to get on something and get myself fixed, right? And so, you know, sometimes it's okay just letting everybody know, right? We're all dealing with demons. We're all dealing with whatever, right? But medication, man. And it took a while to come up with the right cocktail, as it always does, man. But it's day and night. And if you talk to my wife now, it's like there's no problems with that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So the point of that story is, where did I start? I started right where I was, man, in a bad spot, right? That was my starting point.
Yeah.
And I'm still on the journey, right? I'm still trying to become better. I mean, we talk about this stuff, you know, a couple times a week, right, kid?
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
Talk about being better fathers and everything. So it's good for me.
It doesn't matter where you're at, and it also doesn't matter where you've been. It does matter where you're going.
Yeah.
And that does start today.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, given that story, and thanks for sharing that, I mean, everybody's got something like that for sure.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right. There isn't I mean, therapists are not like, they don't just take a certain gender, right? Men can go there, but it's just one of those unwritten rules, or has been, that you don't do that.
No, you just deal with it yourself.
During that time, and I know I've talked to you during that time, you know, if I said, hey man, how's it going? How are you doing? You'd be like, big smile,
I'm
a
good,
bro
man.
hug, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The things that we hide behind our smiles is just a truckload of stress and doubt and all those things. And so you never know, right?
Yeah.
And even in that situation, I would have never known, because I know I'd interacted with you during that time.
Yeah.
And you never know, right?
Yeah.
So we always have to be careful what comes out of our mouth, because you never know what size of load someone's carrying at that time or dealing with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And that's the thing. Like when we first started Neck Roots, we were talking about, you know, first of all, there needs to be an outlet for everybody. Everybody deserves to have a little bit of help, right?
Sure.
But that was the idea behind Neck Nation, right? Is men need to have a place to go, or at least need to have a community, right, where they know that there's other people just like them, right? Even though we don't say it, right? You're just kind of expected, like you were saying, just expected to deal with it.
Yeah.
Men deal with the stress, and you that's it, right? There is no offloading, right? But there needs to be. There needs to be.
You know, anytime you take something in, or you can continue to suppress it when it comes in, and you don't let it out, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And what happens when you're tugging a load that gets heavier and heavier, all of a sudden you could be tugging it on a flat ground, and it feels like you're going up a 30% grade.
Yeah.
It just gets heavier.
Yeah.
And then it comes out and it doesn't look like a very clean load, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think it's something good that as something like that creeps in, you let it out.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is also good is to do this, have conversations. I mean, a podcast forces us to sit down and have this conversation.
Yeah.
Anytime this is a good place to unload.
Yeah, it
Right?
is. It is. Has been.
Yeah. And I think no matter what it is, if you get that opportunity to unload or to share or to, rub shoulders with someone that might need something, a lot of times when they're talking, they just need you to listen. They don't need you to respond. And I think we just automatically are listening to respond, but they just need you to listen, because you can't imagine, if you've never been through something like what you've gone through and what I've gone through and what people go through, you can never imagine that just saying it out loud will help. And it does.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need a response.
No.
You just need to say it.
Yeah.
You just need to unload it. Right?
Yep.
Sometimes when you say it and you hear yourself say it, it's like point seen, money lost. It's good. You can move on. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And leave that behind you. So that's true.
Yeah.
In a lot of different aspects.
It is. Yeah. And I just taking this idea back to the starting line, right? We're already there. We are already at the starting line. So what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Right? If you're talking about changing your life, if you're talking about becoming better or improving on XYZ, whatever it is, Neck Nation, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Right? It's not one of these deals where like, oh, I screwed up today, I'll start tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Hey, the screw up is part of the, you know, you're going to start a race and sometimes you're going to fall down, dude. I can't even tell you how many times I've crashed during a race, right? I mean, I can count more crashes than I can count finishes, dude. And well, nowadays it ends my race, but back when I started, that wasn't the end of my race.
Right.
Dude, that was...
You would count how many bikes went past. That's what you counted.
Yeah,
while
right?
you were picking yourself up.
That's what was going on. But don't compare yourself to others. But, you know, just because you've fallen down or made a mistake doesn't mean that you've exited the race, right?
Yeah. Your past does not equal your future.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
It doesn't. So what are you waiting for? Don't wait till tomorrow. Just start going today,
you know,
right? And if you only make it, like, let's say you're losing weight and you're trying to give up donuts, because, dude, those are my curse, man.
There ain't nothing
Doesn't
wrong.
matter what kind of donut it is either.
It don't matter, dude. It don't matter.
No. But let's say the first day I'm like, okay, I'm not going to eat donuts anymore. Or I'm not going to eat donuts today. And I make it like 2 hours and I eat a donut. I'm like, oh, crap, I'll start tomorrow. Oh, dude, you made it 2 hours. Go make it 4 hours, right? Just, you know, you don't have to, you don't start back over at square one is what I'm saying.
Yeah, your clean slate can be the next minute.
Yeah.
Right in front of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a sun up and a sun down or a new year and an end of an old year.
Doesn't have to be.
No. Sometimes I think we are conditioned to think that way. You get through a semester and you're like, man, I didn't do that good that last semester or whatever. And so, but the teacher tells you, okay, this is the first day of the semester and second semester or whatever. And everyone has the same grade.
Yeah.
So don't screw it up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of conditions us to do that. But what you said, it was very interesting. I was reading something about the way we think.
Yeah.
And studying it just for this new year. And it was on an app, you know, on a workout app. And they're like, get your mind right. And so I just hit listen while I was working and listened to it. And it was interesting. And it's stuff we know, but it's just good to hear a different perspective or a different spin on it. And they were talking about when you're eating and you're ready for another helping and it's sitting there in front of you, a piece of pizza or a donut or whatever, and to resist it is really hard. And the reason it's really hard is because of the conditioned beliefs that you've had and the way you support your conditioned beliefs. They have more support than anybody because, like, let's say you're 30 years old, you've been supporting those beliefs or excuses or whatever justifications for 30 years.
A long time. Right?
And so when you see that piece of pizza or that donut and you know you shouldn't have another one, you're automatically hungry.
Yep.
You're still hungry.
Feeling the pain. I don't want that piece of pizza to go to waste, man.
And then when they're like, hey, it's time to go to the gym and your alarm goes off and the app says, okay, it's time to get your sweat on.
Yeah.
Your brain automatically says, I'm tired. Right?
Yeah.
And
excuses.
And so it's like, if I asked you, Austin, I'm like if I eat another donut, I'm like, dude, here, I feel bad, you know, I just ate the whole box, right? Whatever. Yeah. I ate too many. I just gained everything that I've worked hard to lose. I just gained it all back. And if I said it out loud, what would you say to me?
I'd be like, no, dude, you can't gain it all back in one meal, especially if you've been doing this for a long time, right? If you've been losing weight for a month or whatever, and you slip up and eat a box of donuts or whatever, it doesn't take you all the way back, right?
So, it's just a step back, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we would say to a friend or a loved one or to each other, right?
Yeah.
If you said, bro, look, man, you lifted it up and you're like, man, I'm losing. I just gained it all back or whatever. Yeah. We're going to say no. Or if you say, does this sweater make me look fat? No, dude.
I won't ask you
the
that. The
lines are supposed to go the other way. But that's what you say to someone else. And then they said, now take that same thing and what do you say to yourself?
Oh, dude.
Right? You're hard on yourself. You're like,
big time.
No, dude, you just gained it all back, you heifer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, that's the problem is those conditioned beliefs have been supported by what you tell yourself. And so it's very, very important that we stop and go, man, if I want to move forward and start making these changes and these positive changes, I've got to start talking to myself differently. And where does it start? Goes back to your story. It starts today. It starts where you are, right?
Exactly.
That's the best place to start is where you are because you can't start anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know, this is really important, this idea of these conditioned beliefs, right? Of these things that we tell ourselves, because when something, like, dude, I've done the weight battle. I mean, I've been up to 249 pounds was my biggest, and I'm down to about 202 right now, and I'm looking to get under 200 here in a few days. So, but I've done this back and forth with myself all the time.
You're going to get under 200 in a few days?
I'm going to get under 200 in a few days, dude.
Bro, we got to reward yourself. You got to have a donut party.
Yeah,
okay?
I don't know about that, dude. But, you know, you eat these donuts, you feel bad about yourself, and then you start telling yourself things like, well, you know, I can't stick to this. I guess I just don't have the willpower to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right? You start feeding these things into your brain, and like we've said before, what you feed it, it's going to eat,
yeah.
right? And you'll believe it. So now you've got this loss of willpower, this belief about yourself that you can't do it. And you're like, well, you know what? I screwed up yesterday. I might as well just keep screwing up, right? Because I'm not going to be able to get this done. And then you sabotage yourself. So when things like this happen, and I know we're talking about food here, but maybe it's just because that's an easy analogy, but let's say you eat those box of donuts, right? And you're working on losing weight. Well, instead of beating yourself up about it, just sit back and say, you know, what situation did I put myself in as to, you know, why I ate those donuts? Or,
identify it.
Yeah, identify it. Like, was I stressed out? Like, was it something that went on at work? Was it something that went on today? Like, and then once you identify it, just say, okay, I'll just try and avoid that from here on out so that I can continue to be successful.
Yep.
Right?
And it's true. What you think about, you bring about. If you're constantly thinking that, hey, this is just how my body is, it's my genetics, I'm always going to be battling weight or whatever, you are.
Yeah.
But you can break that cycle, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you grew up, doesn't matter what cards you were dealt. You know what? You can play that hand, right?
Yeah.
And that choice is yours. And so I think that's why we get so much power, you know, when you play Pac-Man or whatever, and you get to turn around and eat the ghosts that were chasing you.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it feels like when you resist that or you accomplish something, dude. You turn around and start munching on them ghosts. Like,
you
dude,
do, and you
stop
chase
chasing
them, man.
me.
Yeah.
And so that's how empowering it is. And it's like when you lose ground, it's just good to turn around and take your power back, man. Start eating the ghosts.
Yeah.
Right? Start chasing them back. So it's momentum.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how you get your power back. And it's like once you do it once, you can do it again and you can do it again. And you know where your willpower is and where your line is and what you're made of and what you can do and what you can't do. And so it's good to push yourself and to resist or to push when you're in pain or whatever. And keep going, right?
Yep.
Or do something that you're absolutely terrified about. I mean, that's one thing about you, Austin, is there's certain things that you have a lot of fear in, but when it comes down to doing it, you'll do it. There was a time in your life where maybe public speaking or getting up in front of someone wasn't your cup of tea, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, frick, no, dude.
Yeah.
Somehow you were on stage doing stand-up comedy, bro.
Yeah, that did happen, man.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so you weren't saying the prayer at church. You were doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Where someone could throw tomatoes or haymakers or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty. And so anytime you do that and you cross that threshold, I think it gives you a little bit more power to resist, a little bit more power to believe in yourself, right?
Yeah.
And to believe that you can do it, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have got up on stage if you didn't think you could do it. Right?
No. And, you know, some of that, here's the deal. To get up on stage and to do that, right? I'm just thinking back to that time, like, it took practice, right? If I had just said, you know what, I'm going to wing this, right? It would have been a different story, man. It would have been a completely different story. It would have been a different experience, right? I wouldn't have got the reaction from the crowd that I ended up getting. And just so you know, Neck Nation, like, it was a good experience for me. And I felt so good about myself afterwards that not only that I had done that, but that was the reaction of the crowd or whatever. But
and then Jay Leno called you and asked you to and you're like, no, dude, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, no. There's another guy that's a comedian right now. His name is Shane Smith, and he's kind of, you know, he's got some traction and he's got a little bit of fame with regard to his comedy, and he does like the Dry Bar and he's got specials and things like that. And he and I were in that room together at that improv, or not the improv night. What was it? It's the open mic night.
Yeah.
And he was nobody back then. He was just this guy, and I mean, I was nobody back then. I'm still kind of nobody, but
time out, bro.
Time out.
You're always somebody.
Oh man, what you think about, you bring about, right? So, but yeah, it's kind of cool. And the idea here is that it took practice. Right. Yeah. And I think that's the same thing with everything that we do. You can't go out of the gate. You're starting right where you are. You can't launch out of the gate and be like, I'm good. I'm going to be there the first time I try this.
No,
right?
you're going to fall down. You're going to hit some roadblocks for sure.
Yeah, you can't expect perfection out of yourself the first time you attempt something.
Oh, if you expect that, you just failed already,
Dude,
man.
yeah, you're setting yourself up to fail, not in a good way, right? In a bad way, in a demotivating way. So,
and everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody starts somewhere. And then, man, I was thinking back to an episode that we did. It's been a long time ago, but it was called Divorce Your Excuses, right? And I think excuses come into our lives more often when there's something that we need to do or we need to change.
Yeah.
Right? If we're going to change something about ourselves, right, the excuses start coming. Now, we got excuses. Somebody asks us to go do something, or, the wife wants to go out or something.
Got COVID.
You got COVID. You have excuses. And, whatever, right? Every once in a while. But when you're changing yourself, it seems like the excuses are never ending. This is the time, right? Divorce your excuses. Get rid of them. Get them out of there, right?
Yep.
There is no reason why you shouldn't better yourself.
No.
And don't tell yourself that there's a reason.
And you deserve to better yourself, too.
Everybody does, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, and a good way to always remember is just treat it like a funnel. And at the end of that funnel, when you're making those excuses, say, do I want reasons why I didn't do this, or do I want results why I can do this?
Yeah.
So, and that's true. We either funnel them into the reasons why, and it's easy. Our brain's already, we are predetermined, dude. We got chapters and chapters and chapters of excuses, right?
Yeah.
Even if you name them something else, we got them, bro. They're just automatic, bro. They're on automatic. They're like AI, right?
Yeah.
They shoot them out quick. But reasons and results, right? And you see, where do you want that to land in the bottom right-hand corner of your ticker? Where do you want it to go? It's got to be reasons, right? And so what are the reasons why I'm going to push through this, to get the result?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Your brother said something to you a while ago, and it's just stuck with me, because all of our messages here that we give are kind of positive and uplifting, right? How to better yourself, make changes in your life. And these are all good, but your brother had said something. It was, I don't remember the exact thing that you told me, but it was along the lines of, sometimes a fat kid just wants to eat a donut.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He said that. And I think, that's true.
It
right?
is true.
When we're looking to change ourselves, even when we're up here, in the podcast studio and we're sending this stuff out, maybe sometimes a positive message isn't what you need that day, right? Maybe you just need to sulk or something like that. Or
the reality check, like, hey, brother needs a donut.
Yeah, right?
Sometimes.
When you're changing yourself for the better, maybe sometimes you just need a donut.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfectly okay, right?
Yeah.
And that's that whole thing of sometimes you just need someone to listen to what you have to say,
Yeah.
right? You don't need to make any changes that day, but
you just need to unload.
You just need to unload.
Yep. And if that's all you did that day, bro, you won.
You did it.
It might not look like it. It might not feel like it. But guess what? As you continue to unload, or you continue to do that and just do that reality check, all of a sudden you hit a checkpoint, dude, and you're a lot lighter.
Yeah.
And you're a lot faster, and you're moving a lot more confident and different.
Yeah. Taking a break in some circumstances is progress, man.
Yep.
Because you're not going to move forward without giving yourself a break every once in a while.
And
eat that donut, guys.
Yeah, because even once in a while, it does require you, the situation, depending on what it is, it does require you to go backwards before you can go forwards. It really does.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if you're trying to lose weight, go eat a box of donuts and then get started. But right, that's always counterproductive. But it does. Going backwards is okay. Where's your focus? Where's your heart? Where are you really determined to go? Right? What's your desired outcome? And what are you doing to achieve that result?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So.
Good deal. Well, kid, I think that's a pretty good message for today, right?
Yeah.
I think that, Nick Nation. So you're already where you need to be, right? If you're looking to change yourself, you're at the starting line right now. You don't have to drive there. You don't have to pack up the trailer and head down to California in order to hit the starting line like I'm going to do next week. But just start where you're at, right?
Yep.
Make some progress.
And when you start where you're at, be where you are, right?
Yeah.
It don't matter where you are as long as you're there, right?
Yeah.
And you're aware. And, you know, it's just get rid of the distractions. Be where you are. Start where you are, because that's the only thing you can do. You can't start where you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Acknowledge your situation. Take some accountability for it, and let's move forward. So awesome. That's a great message, Kit. So, well, if you like that message, then be sure to like and share this video. If you didn't like the message, still like and share this video, right?
Make an excuse.
Yeah, make an excuse. But check us out on Facebook, on Instagram. We're going to be posting some things on there. We got a bunch of YouTube shorts that went out. I think those are doing pretty good. So we're gaining some traction and getting some more followers every once in a while.
And you know what? Make sure and follow up and see how Austin's doing back on the track. You know what I mean? We're gonna bring some stuff to you live from the track, and
we'll get some GoPro footage, bro.
Yeah,
we'll get some GoPro footage and throw that up on the Instagram and on the YouTube. So awesome. Well, take care, Neck Nation, and bless up.
Bless up.